I did.
You know, I'm so thankful to be here tonight because there was a time in my life when I really wasn't thankful and I really wasn't humble. And that ultimately led to this disease that we call alcoholism. So if I cry, I'm sorry tonight. It's been a long time, but it's all good. I was born December 13th, 1984 to alcoholic people. They weren't married, so I was basically born out of wedlock, if you want to say that. I have a brother who is younger than me, same parents. So what happened was we were in foster care because they said that my parents weren't able to take care of us, so CPS got a hold of us, and our journey started off in Kingston, went to East Bremerton, and then we split up. My brother went to live with my parents, and I got adopted. And at the age of 7 in elementary school, my parents lived in West Park, and I did not know this until I went home with this kid. And this little girl, she saw me playing in the yard, and she knew that my dad and her mom were drinking buddies. And so she's like, hey, I know where somebody else lives that looks exactly like you. And I was like, me too, why not, you know? So we went up the hill in West Park, down, around a corner, and she knocked on this door, and here's my dad drunk. It was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and here's my little brother sick, and I stood right into the face of my little brother. And my dad in a drunk stagger was like, hey, did you call your mom? I was like, no. So I called my mom, and she came like an hour later, and that's when it became an open adoption, which meant I would go over there and hang out with my parents on the weekends. I wouldn't spend the night, like it would be Friday after school, come home 3 hours later, Saturday, spend all day. And basically, I saw growing up with going to my brother's house, my dad's house, was alcohol was prevalent. My dad would start drinking at 6 a.m. and be a dead mess by 4 or 5 o'clock, people coming in and out, his buddies hanging out. So that's what my brother grew up with, so that was the norm for him. The norm for me was being adopted, a perfect childhood, parents who love each other. Going to church was the norm, and so I had a different standard of living opposed to my brother. So then, growing up, I always had the standard of my older brother, Mark, who listened to my dad in the military, has an awesome family. My sister went off to Alaska to become a teacher, got married. My other brother, Luke, he graduated from UW, went off to seminary to become a pastor. My other brother, Billy, who's here tonight, listened to my dad, went into the military, got married, then there's me, and then we adopted a little girl when I was in the 2nd grade. So I always had this kind of standard that I had to live, like, you know, you do this, this is going to result in a good life, you do this, this is, you know, so I always had that standard to stare at because of my older brother, Mark. So, growing up in that, it was awesome, you know, and at the age of 15, turning 15, I got a call from my brother, and my dad did my birth dad did the whole alcoholic thing, get married, have 2 kids, alcohol ruined his marriage, so it was on from there, like sleep around, have kids, sleep around, that was what my dad did. And from a different relationship, my brother, who I had never met, was coming up from California, and my little brother was all excited about this. So he called December 12th, was like, hey, bro, your brother's coming up and he wants to hang out with us. us, and we're going to go to Denny's for your 15th birthday, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, dude, that's cool. December 13th on my birthday, 8:30 in the morning, I get a call. And my brother said, well, we're not going to go to breakfast. And I was like, why? And he goes, your brother got high and drunk last night and blew his brains out because of this disease. So I had a vivid picture at 15 of what this disease can do. But I didn't care. You know, at that point I was like, well, you know, drugs and alcohol won't really do anything to me. I'm infinity. 15 as a freshman, I started smoking outside issues, and this lasted until I was 17. And the first time that I did outside issues was with my little brother. And he wasn't only my little brother at that point, he became my best friend, because whenever I wanted to get outside issues, I could go to him. And it kind of sucked, you know, getting high with your little brother, and then all of a sudden he becomes your best friend, because you know where to get the weed at, you know where to get all the drugs and etc. Because he had hookups, I didn't. So that's what I did until I was about 17, and then that didn't become the norm, you know, because everybody was smoking and everybody, you know, and so I was one who followed the crowd. You know, if they stopped, I would stop. They did this, I would do this. And so, hold on. So at the age of 18, here I am in high school. My brother's younger than me. He's got hookups, right? So he didn't want to go to the homecoming game. I did. So I went, and he's like, I'll be back for you at halftime. I was like, all right. You know, and he was already plastered drunk and high, so I was like, go figure, right? He won't be back. Well, he came back. He pulled me out of the game at halftime, and we went from Bremerton High in the back football field up the hill, and there was this house that was on the market, and we went into the driveway, and here's my brother with the backpack. He pulls off his backpack, and he pulls out a 22-ounce of 211. And remember, I've never drank in my life, so I don't know what I'm getting into. So he cracks the bottle and he hands it to me, and I take a couple swigs, you know, and I'm like, here, you know, he's like, no, that's all yours, drink it. So I down that one. So then he pulls out another one, does the same thing. I do the same thing. So I go back down to the high school, and I was a smart alcoholic at this point, because I was like, I'm gonna get caught. So I stuck gum in my mouth. I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, didn't get caught, went home that night. And I woke up with this earth-shattering thing that they call a hangover. And so I drank a lot of coffee, and it was okay. It was totally okay, because my parents didn't know that I had drank that night, so I was cool, right? And then I graduated high school, went down to Oregon, because every Christian kid wants to be a youth pastor. That's just the nature of it. And I wanted to follow in my older brother Luke's footsteps. So I went to Oregon, and that lasted 6 months. And of course, I'm thinking the weed, the alcohol, that's going to stay in Washington. But I was wrong. That followed me down to Oregon. And I would drink and do weed, and finally I got caught, and I came back up to Washington, and sitting at the end of my parents' bed, and I did the whole alcoholic remorse, guilty, you know, because I made the choice to drink. Nobody else shoved it down my throat. I made that choice to get kicked out of Bible college. And my dad kind of was just like, good night, this is a mess. And that was all that was said. I mean, I was on restriction. My parents did a huge restriction list for me. But of course, I find ways to bend the rules. So I would bend the rules a little more, a little more, a little finally I got what I wanted, because I'm that type of person. If I want something, I'm going to bend it until I get it, you know? So then, when I hit 21, my mom was in California, and my brother knew that I was 21. So that Friday night, I decided to go see somebody play softball for Olympic High School, and I was on the bus, and I get a call from home, and I'm thinking, okay, you know, my dad's at work, my mom's in California, my little sister, if she's home from school early, you know, so I answered the phone, and it wasn't my dad, it wasn't my mom, it wasn't my little sister, it was my little brother. And he said, well, where you at? I told him where I was, and he's like, get off the bus, meet me halfway on your road. So I was like, all right, you know. And I had money on me, and I'm thinking, you know, nothing bad will happen. And I called my mom. She's like, just be a good influence. Don't go drink. You're 21. I was like, I won't, Mom. So then I met my little brother halfway on my parents' road, and I bought beer for both of us. And I started off at a little church thing off of Kids That Way, and I ended up way over at a park, over at like Haddon Park. From there, and I'm drunk at this point. I'm completely smashed. And it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I went back to the park, and I decided to go and get more beer at Rock's Quick Stop. So I walk in, and here comes the 40, baby. Gotta try it, right? So I'm drinking this thing, and I get a call from my dad on my cell phone. And I'm like, my dad goes, you've been drinking. I was like, don't. And pressed in. That was it, right? So, because I didn't want to get found out that I was drinking quick. I really didn't, but he had already known. So, from there, I hit the automatic blackout, and God only knows how I got to Port Orchard. I don't remember that. But I do remember the walk home from Port Orchard to Bremerton with the absolute hangover. I remember that part. So I come in the house after a long night of fun with the hangover, and here's my dad. Where you been, son? And I shoot up the stairs to my room. I wasn't going to say anything, right? So he comes in my room because I wanted to sleep, because I had just walked a minute, right? So he takes my cell phone. I'm thinking, this is too much, you know? But I understand now why he did that. And my mom's still in California. Of course, my mom calls, and my dad's like, well, he's sleeping. So he comes in my room, hands me the phone, and my mom's trying to get this out of me, like, hey, you went out and drank. And I didn't answer any of those questions, because I'm thinking smartly here, right? I don't want to get caught. So then the next day was a Sunday, and I went to church with my dad, and I was just like, this is ridiculous, this is too much, right? So after that, I got home from church, and my dad left, and my little sister's here in the room, and I said, I gotta get out of here. I'm not getting my cell phone taken away anymore, and I just named off this stuff, and I called my little brother who lived in Port Orchard, the same one that I got drunk with the night before, and that's water. And she's in tears saying, don't leave, but chasing alcohol and drugs was more important than being a brother to my sister. So I spent probably about a month in Port Orchard with my brother, and literally it was drinking, getting high, finding ways and means to get high and drunk, and walking miles and miles to get alcohol and miles to go to the bar. That's pretty much all I did when I was at my brother's. And I came home and my mom started crying, but that didn't really affect me, you know? So then this kind of little cycle that I had created with my disease kept going around and around and around, you know? And I would find other friends, new friends, who we could hang out and go drink, and in 2009, I was walking, and I had just gotten paid for doing a project, and I was walking on Rocky Point through Crown Hill, and here's my best friend, my brother, with 2 females, a bottle of Hennessy. He's already drunk. I hadn't drank. And he said, here, let's drink. So I started drinking some hen. And walked to the store, got more beer, of course. And that night turned into the worst nightmare of my life, because I always told myself, if alcohol does what it did to my dad and make children, I don't want that. Because I was raised in a family that being a virgin when you're married is held high. I lost my virginity that night, and the shame and the remorse and the guilt, I didn't want to go home and face the reality that alcohol did this. So I moved in with a friend, and literally all I did was get drunk, go to the casino, get drunk, gamble, get lit. Because that was my thing at this point. Because at this point I didn't care, right? And I moved back home in December, and my parents did the rule thing again. No gambling, can't go to the casino, no more drinking. And of course I'm sitting there going, okay, I can handle this, right? And and this was way before I was in the program. I was like, I can handle this will be awesome. So I lasted white knuckling it until about March. And I had done a project, got money, called somebody, we went out to the casino, had a beer, then a beer turned into, let's go to the liquor store in East Bremerton and get a 5th of Southern Comfort, which we polished off, which 10 minutes later I'm back in the liquor store getting a half gallon of R&R, which turned out to be getting drunk and me ending up back at Clearwater, which ended up a complete mess. Like, I got so drunk, and then I ended up in Port Orchard at my aunt's house, and I fell asleep, and then in the morning at 6 a.m., coming down off a good, nice hangover, here's my aunt with a bottle of vodka over my head saying, time to wake up. And this is Friday morning, so I woke up and I had drank the whole day and did some outside issues. My first time doing that was with my aunt. My first time doing cocaine was with my aunt that night, and of course I have my cell phone, so my parents are like, where you at, what are you doing, texting me, blowing up my phone. But of course I was totally being a functional alcoholic and a drug addict, and I'm like, I'm fine, I'm doing this, and I didn't tell them where I was at. And I did that binge for a whole weekend, and came home Monday night, turning Tuesday morning, early morning, and my dad wakes up early on Tuesdays, and he came down the stairs, opened up the door, and I fell asleep, and of course I'm thinking I'm going to sleep in. Well, my mom was extra loud this time, because she was fed up with the whole going out, drinking, coming back in, thinking life was great, and thinking they'll accept me. So what she did was the whole tough love thing, saying you have this amount of minutes to get all your stuff. We can't see you destroy yourself. And I'm thinking, you know. And so my parents basically had to see me destroy myself until I came to myself. And I lived in a tent in their field for a minute, and then I decided to live in their crawl space. And my brother, my oldest brother Luke, he called me and was like, hey, I'm coming over to hang out with you while I was still in the game. And I was like, all right, cool, you know. And I'm thinking, he's going to be like, I love you, bro. It's awesome what you're doing. Wrong mistake. And I've never seen my brother Luke cry as hard as he cried looking at me when he was leaving. He turned and he said, Joseph, you're the man. And I'm thinking, I'm the man, what? And I was still in the game and I didn't care. It had an impact. It hit right here, but not to the point of I wanted recovery right away. So I was sick and tired of living under my parents' house. I was sick and tired of living in their field. So I called Kids Up Recovery Center and I said, I need treatment and I need it now. And they said, well, we'll have a bed for you in about a week. So June 7th, I walked all the way from my parents' house in Rocky Point to Kids Up Recovery Center because I knew if I got a ride, I wasn't going to do it. I wanted to do it because of me. And I texted my brother Luke, who said I was the man the whole walk. When I got into KRC, I knew that I was safe. But I didn't know what to expect. And so one counselor kept saying that I have all these issues. Like, you have this issue and this issue and this. And I started paying attention. Because every time that he would teach, he would tell his story and say, this is what led you here, Joseph, was your alcohol and your drugs. This is why you struggle, because you're a wreck, you know? And he's like, you have to find God. You have to find a mental defense. And I'm thinking in my head, forget this, right? I'm thinking, no. And I went to my room that night at KRC and I said, God, do whatever you have to do. I promise I won't drink or use drugs if you just help me. So at the halfway point in treatment, my dad came, just my dad, and he hung out because on Saturday they had, for a couple hours, family could hang out. And then he left, and the next weekend, my dad and my brother Billy, they show up. And the teacher said to my dad, why are you here? He's like, to support my son. My brother Billy, when they asked that question, he said to support my brother in this. My brother was one who, when I was in the game, he said, my son doesn't need that as an uncle. So I was like, all right, cool. So I graduated treatment July 7th. And I was so excited to get out of KRC that I got home. My mom was on a trip somewhere. I texted my brother Luke, who I had texted when I was walking to KRC, and I said, I'm out, bro, I'm out. I'm sober, I'm out. It's good. It's like, good. So then after that, I went and saw my birth mom at Forest Ridge, and I told her, I was like, I have to go to a meeting tonight at 5, and this was the first hall that I walked to, and that I came into the 5 p.m. Wednesday night meeting, and they said, well, it's 24 hours, and I shot up and I said, my name's Joseph, I'm an alcoholic, all of a sudden, got my 24-hour coin, of course, right? And then he's like, who has a month? And then I'm all excited. I'm like, what is this? I got 1 month, right? So I got this. I got these coins, right? So I'm thinking, yes, right? And I went back to see my mom. But the thing was, it was a first step meeting, and they're sitting there telling me that I gotta find God. You know, that I'm powerless over people, places, and things. And I'm sitting here going, y'all are crazy. They're talking to me, telling me that I'm powerless over this, and I'm just like, who are these people, right? But they did say one thing. They said keep coming back, of course. And I was like, that's, these people, I don't know. And they kept giving me hugs every time they would see me. Kept giving me hugs. And I was like, oh, jeez, man. So I came back the next day, and I was all excited about this, going home, right? Because I'm thinking, I don't drink, I'm getting coins, this is like a video game, this is the coolest thing ever. You know, you get ones ups. So I got my 60-day coin, and that was a big deal for me. You know, I lasted 30 days, I lasted 30 more days, got a gold coin, dude. I was so proud of that. And so then my birth mom is dying at this time, and I would go and see her while I was, and I would spend days with her, visiting her at the nursing home. And at 3 months, just after I got 3 months, September 11th, 2010, she passed away. But the cool thing was that my parents came and got me, and I was in a meeting, and they said, you have to go see your mom. She's in hospice. So I went to hospice, and I got to spend the last hour and a half of my mom's life with her. She died knowing that one of her kids is sober. And that was really hard. But it was the only gift that I could give her. And before I left her room, I said, Mom, the story's not done yet. And you know, the story is, I'm still sober, so the story's still going on. And all I could do was go to meetings, hang on to my seat, cry, wanting to go drink, but I knew I couldn't. Something inside of me, because of this stupid little cliche, a belly full of booze and a head full of it would not be a good combo. And I couldn't for the life of me do it. So I soared through that sober, and at 6 months, my adopted mom ended up with breast cancer. And did I want to go drink? Absolutely. You know, there wasn't anything stopping, because remind you, 3 months previous that my mom died. So I couldn't do that. That was lame. You know, as I kept going to meetings, as I kept hearing, you know, people tell their stories, and people constantly taking me out in the parking lot. Hey, Joseph, get this. You don't have hate. Joseph, quit taking people's inventory. Joseph, do this. Joseph, do that. And I'm thinking, why me? You know? But I see now why they were so gung-ho, is because they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. You know, all my character defects, they saw it in me. But they also saw that I was trying to do something different, trying to figure out how this whole AA, why you guys are so stupidly happy. And they were trying to do that. They were trying to do that, and so I was like, dude, come on. And after meetings, people would be like, Stay at the hall. You have a key. Read the big book from page 1 to 163. So I'm sitting here reading all these steps, trying to figure this thing out, and they said one thing that was really cool. They said you read the book, you get sober, you get a sponsor. A sponsor is supposed to help you work the steps. And I'm like, okay, fine. I know who I want to be my sponsor. So I got that person to be my sponsor, and they went back out. And they went out hard. Their wife is still in the program, but they're out. And so then I was like, crap, time to get a new sponsor. So I got another sponsor, but that sponsor did some shady stuff, and I had to listen to that shady stuff for a year at district. But what my sponsor did after that, after my shady sponsor, I got a gung-ho AA sponsor, and a lot of people know who that person is. They made me do so much. I mean, literally, we were going from Bremerton to Gig Harbor to Tacoma to Port Orchard to sitting there reading the big book to working steps to going to a Lala to telling our stories to this to that, and that was cool, and at 11 months, just before I had 11 months, I got kicked out of my house. Even in sobriety, stuff happens. So, I lived with somebody in the program for a month, got my 11 months, got my 1 year client, and all I could do at that point was chair meetings. And you're an alcoholic when you find yourself in Silverdale between a bike shop and a bar that you want to go drink at 13 months. And all I could do was cling in a fetal position to the ground and dig my hands into the ground and say, God, what is it? Crying, wanting so bad to drink. So bad. And finally just getting up in tears, going to a meeting, sitting there, being all angry. And then the person that made you mad is telling you to ride somebody else's bike in the program that left their bike there for people to ride to wherever they need to get to. Go to the Bremen group. I'm thinking, all right, I can do that. Pre-planning in my head my relapse, how I was going to relapse, right? So here I am, and I'm thinking, okay, I can go to our place that nobody will know. If I couldn't turn in there, okay, I guess that's a shot idea. So then I'm riding on Chico, I'm sitting there going, okay, there's the horse and cow. We'll do that idea. Nope, I couldn't go up this way, so I'm thinking, what is this, right? 19 total, baby. Nope, I couldn't do that. So then I'm like, okay, my only last two options before the Broom group are Romeo's, which is now the Garage, and Brother Don's. The bike literally, I swear, it was too sober for me at this point. So it rode all the way to Callow, and I'm mad because I wanted to drink, right? But it wouldn't let me drink. So I went to a meeting, slept in a dugout at Crown Hill, the school that I had gone to as a kid and that I drank, that started me on this alcoholism track. And I left for the 7 a.m. meeting at Sober Group. And here I am, after this night of messing with my head, as I should say, and as I'm riding on Chico Way, it was calm, the water was calm, and I looked out just like glass, and here's the sunset coming up like a fireball, and I'm like, that's why I'm sober, to enjoy what God has for me. So yeah, So then after that, that was like a turning point in my sobriety, because I realized then that being sober isn't really all about me. It's about what God has done, what He is, what He does, how He works through people, how He does this, why He does it, and through difficulties, what I found out is through difficulties, there's time to jump through the hoops. Through those, there's, how should I put it? Through difficulties, there's gain. Through gain, there's more gain. And, today, what sobriety has given me is countless. I mean, it's restored this. This is what it's restored and given me. It's restored two parents who don't have to worry about where their son is, who are here tonight. It's restored a relationship with my older brother who doesn't have to hear about me on my drunken escapades. It's restored a relationship with my sister who she can call me and say, hey, I need your help, and I'm there. It's given me, my brother doesn't have to get up in front of his congregation and say, pray for my little brother because he's drunk. It's given me another brother who doesn't have to say, my children don't need you in their life. And it's given me a relationship with my sister who doesn't have to see what type of brother I'm going to be. If I'm going to be high or drunk. And they've never seen me take a drink. And some of my family is here tonight, which is awesome, And, today I'm able to throw down money on a flat screen, money on whatever, and on Monday was a good illustration of what this program has given me is I got to go to Walmart with my mom and throw down like $115 on a phone, They saw, that's what they saw, is a restored relationship. So if you're new to this program, what I'm going to say is stick with people who work a hard program. Listen to people when they try to tell you a suggestion, because their suggestion is often right, I mean, I have people in here who saw me being sober, who and they're still my friends today. Dang, right? I mean, you get friends, you get stuff that you want if you listen. And yes, there are times when I don't want to listen, but they tell me the truth because they love me. And that's my story, and that's all I